That was fantastic. What a wonderful world has kind of become a modern-day contemporary psalm for so many of us, that it's a piece of music, it's a poem that we've often turned to in times of need to remind us of the good things of life. And that is the basis of our sacred story this morning, Psalm 90. You may be aware that there is a book in the Bible called Psalms. Yes, we're aware of that. Good. That's good. And you may be aware that there are 150 of those poems or psalms in the book of Psalms. And 90 is the first psalm of the fourth book. So you may not be aware that even though there's 150 psalms in the Christian Bible, it really isn't demarcated too well, but in the old Hebrew Bible, then each book of the Psalms, which is about 30 psalms or so, they have different themes. They're grouped together. And the end of the third book of Psalms is Lamentations. It is the crying out to God for the hardships and the travails and the tribulations of our lives. And the entire section of the Psalms of the third book of Psalms is really dark and really speaks to that part of the human existence which is grounded and rooted in suffering. Book 4, starting with Psalm 90, tries to start to answer those prayers of lamentation, those crying out of the humans, of human beings in suffering. And it does so by hearkening to the days of Moses. So some of you may know or think that most of the Psalms were written by David or his son Solomon, and that has been the tradition. But there are a few that are thought of to be written by other people, and this is one that was written, that is ascribed to and thought of by the tradition to be written by Moses, and then it was set to music. So these words that Jen is about to read for us is not the Chuck Heston, "Let my people go." It is a psalm, it is a poem ascribed to Moses to speak to that heart of the human existence which grows out of our suffering through life. Jen.
Our reading today comes from the book of Psalms, number 90, verses 1 to 8, and verse 12, a psalm written by Moses. Lord, you have been our dwelling place in all generations. Before the mountains were brought forth, or ever you had formed the earth and the world, from everlasting to everlasting you are God. You turn us back to dust and say, "Turn back, ye mortals." For 1,000 years in your sight are like yesterday when it is past, or like a watch in the night. You sweep them away. They are like a dream, like grass that is renewed in the morning. In the morning it flourishes and is renewed. In the evening it fades and withers. For we are consumed by your anger. By your wrath we are overwhelmed. You have set our iniquities before you, our secret sins in light of your countenance. So teach us to count our days so that we may gain a wise heart.
Thank you, Jen. All of us have traditions and rituals set around the holidays. And every year growing up at Thanksgiving time, before there was a single slice of turkey that was served, before there was any helpings of potatoes or stuffings that were scooped, before any roll was buttered, indeed, before the grace was offered, you would have to sit around my family table and you would have to share publicly 3 things that you were thankful for. And every year it snuck up on me, this tradition. I always forgot. And so the day of Thanksgiving, I was in my room, I was in the bathroom, I was on the couch watching the Dallas Cowboys lose, trying to come up with the 3 things in which I was thankful for, which would be different from the things that my 2 sisters would have come up with, that would be, held acceptable unto my parents, so that I could have turkey and stuffing and pie. Now, my parents did a great job of instilling in their children politeness and manners and being courteous. I think it's much easier. Now, I say this, I'm not a parent. It seems to me that it's much easier to instill in our children politeness and manners and courteousness than it is to instill in our young ones an idea or a sense of gratitude and thanksgiving and stewardship and blessedness. And the idea is it's just harder to instill, especially, I think, when the idea comes at a ransom. When you hold back turkey and stuffing as it's being held hostage from you. When I was a kid, it wasn't about, when I was trying to think of my 3 things, it really wasn't about a sense of gratitude. It was about coming up with 3 things so that I could get the food, man, so I could get the food. And yet, it obviously has kind of sunk in with us. Because if you were to come to Casa de Kistler this Thanksgiving in South Park and you were sitting around the table, I would torture you. As the turkey and stuffing and cranberry sauce were sitting in the middle of the table, and before you would be served, you would have to share 3 things that you were thankful for from the year past before a single item was served or you could dig into the feast. But the more I think about this tradition, God love my parents, the more I just see the inherent flaw in it. As just thinking about what we are thankful for once a year. After we get over the silliness of Halloween and before the season of Jesus' birth becomes all-consuming in our society. This idea of stressing gratitude and thanksgiving and blessedness, stewardship, once a year, especially when it comes at the reward of yummy food, there is a serious flaw in that, in my opinion. And like my family, the church falls into that same trap all the time. And I know I, as the spiritual leader of this church, fall into that trap all the time. It was just a month ago that we were celebrating Preschool Sunday here at our church. And the very next day on Monday, I went, oh my God, stewardship's in a month. I've got to start thinking about what I'm going to say. And it snuck up on me again. I was like, didn't we just do that? So I better come up with 3 pretty cool, meaningful, witty things, or I might not get any Spud Bowl. So the writer of Psalm 90 gives us a way to get around this conundrum of only thinking about spiritual disciplines of stewardship and discipline of gratitude and thanksgiving and blessedness. The writer, the poet of Psalm 90, encourages us to count our days so that we may gain a wise heart. I have a friend who is incredibly entrenched in Alcoholics Anonymous. He's been sober for about 8 years, and he attends meetings 3 or 4 times a week. And he tells me that in Alcoholics Anonymous, alcohol is labeled as a distraction. Alcohol distracts him from being able to appreciate life for the gift that it is and to live each day to its fullest without harming others or harming himself. Alcohol distracts him from what is most important in his life. It distracts him from realizing his fullest potential and being able to have healthy, functional, life-affirming relationships. My friend says that alcohol distracts him, not just into doing foolish things, but alcohol distracts him to the point that it actually turns him into being a fool. Well, we don't have to be an addict. We don't have to be addicted to alcohol to have those type of distractions in our life. We have enough distractions of our own, that distractions that not only sort of distract us into doing foolish things, but distractions that can literally turn us into a fool. But sometimes, when you are an addict, you have to hit rock bottom before you can get rid of those distractions. But sometimes, you don't have to hit rock bottom. You just have to fall far enough and fast enough to see rock bottom coming, to finally say, I've got to get control of these distractions and get back in control of my life, to be shaken up enough so that we can get out of our complacency and be reminded yet again of what is most important. To our spiritual ancestors, the exile and the destruction of the Jerusalem temple and the sacking of Jerusalem itself was that shaking out of the complacency of life and reminding them of what was most important. And Psalm 90 harkens back to a day before the temple, before Jerusalem, even before the promised land, when God was the dwelling place. And blessings were not something that you received by doing a burnt offering at the temple, but it was something that was sustained in the relationship that we had with each other and with the earth and with the great creating, sustaining, nurturing, loving, gracious God of Abraham and Sarah, Isaac and Rebekah, Jacob, Leah, and Rachel. So how do you get beyond your distractions? How do you cut through the distractions to be reminded of what is most important in life? According to Psalm 90, and what has been borrowed by AA and countless other 12-step programs, is you count your days. And you count your blessings. And you realize at the very heart of it all that you are a blessing. In and of yourself, as you were created, you are a blessing. This is what gives us a wise heart, is to recognize the affirmation that you are a gift, and everything that has happened in your life, good and bad, is a gift. And a wise heart gives us the ability to cut through all of those distractions, to view what is most important in life. A wise heart connects with open eyes to be able to view our blessings with clarity. A wise heart connects to an open mind to allow us to appreciate our blessings fully. And a wise heart connects to our open hand so that we can give our blessings back to others. So at the risk of oversimplifying all of this, our stewardship campaign this year was called Blessed to be a Blessing. And there's a fine sort of spiritual discipline, spiritual theological stance and dance that we need to do. Because at its heart, blessed to be a blessing speaks about God's intent and God's methodology. That God chooses to break through into our lives, to repair the brokenness of the world, one human being at a time, through love and blessings that are multiplied. Perhaps you might appreciate the fact that there is a challenge in trying to talk about the theology behind blessed to be a blessing. Because if we stay too big picture here, blessed to be a blessing could simply kind of read like the inside of a Hallmark card. But if we talk about the particulars too much, then we might lose the profound truth inherent in that statement. And it might just kind of become this divine pay it forward or worse, pay it back sort of idea. So I want to lean on some of the wisdom of two people who are infinitely smarter than I am. One is an ancient Jewish sage who puts blessed to be a blessing in this way. He says there is a paradox that lies at the very heart of the covenant God makes with humanity. God enters into a relationship with particular people, but that relationship must contribute to the benefit of every last family and person on earth. So God enters into relationship with us to bless us so that we can then bless others. Or, as the beautiful and wise Episcopalian preacher and teacher Barbara Brown Taylor says, blessing is the recognition that even when all the odds seem stacked against you, the universe is still, for some inexplicable or mysterious reason, in your corner. And if you're a person of faith, you might want to substitute universe for God. That God is in your corner even when it seems like the chips are stacked against you. The point is that when you wake up in the morning, your meter is not set at 0. If you woke up at all today, did you wake up? Yes. Then you're already ahead of the game. If you are alive, are you alive? Oh, geez. Are you alive? Thank you. Then you're simply blessed by the virtue of being here and living another day. That you have another choice to make and another opportunity to make the world a better place than it was when you went to bed the night before. How do you do that? I don't know. I'm working on it too. And I don't think a 15-minute sermon is really going to give you the spiritual truth that you need. But it is the question and the quest for life, and it's something that we work on each and every day. Some of us actually have already reached a certain level of spiritual enlightenment, and they actually practice this sentiment pretty well. A good friend of ours and sweet prayer partner, Steve Davis, who worships in the 8:30 service, who is one of our Golden Jubilee honorees from a couple of weeks ago, every time you see him and you ask him, Steve, how is your day going? He will respond by saying, and I quote, well, I'm vertical, and that beats the alternative. Or as my pastor at First Community Church, Ed Middleton, used to say when I would ask him, how's your day going? He would say, well, I have this deep belief that I'm going to live forever. And so far, I haven't been proven wrong. So the first step to living out a sense of gratitude and blessedness and stewardship in your life is to accept the fact that you are a gift. And everything in your life has been given to you with no strings attached. That's step one. Step two, I turn to the country of India. We have Thanksgiving Day, but in India, the country designates a week, not just to giving thanks, but to giving back. In India, it's called the Joy of Giving Week. And it emphasizes that universal spiritual truth that is inherent in all traditions, that there is inherent goodness in giving back to others, particularly those who are marginalized and on the margins and impoverished and outsiders. The country of India has asked its people, and there's a lot of them, to have a wise heart, to count their days, to count their blessings, and so to be thankful for them, and to see the many blessings that they have in their lives, and to see their lives in and of itself as a gift, and to ask how they might share those blessings with others. There are way too many ways for me to tell you how the country of India goes about promoting and celebrating the Joy of Giving Week. But one of the most popular ways is through a short video competition that nonprofits and religious organizations and philanthropic organizations participate in every year, and the government will give a grant to the winner of the short video contest. And I showed this video at our money workshop this past week, and it was just too cute not to show the rest of you. So the winner in 2013 came from a foundation called the Nike, not the Nike, but the Nike Foundation. And they work to empower women to fully participate in Indian society when it's not always so easy. And this was the video that won 2 years ago. Mike, if you don't mind. first step to living out a sense of gratitude and thanksgiving, of stewardship and blessedness, is to recognize that you are a gift, and that everything that has happened in your life is a gift given to you with no strings attached. The second step is to live out the inherent spiritual truth that when we give back to others with no strings attached, then we participate in that giving of a gift of life with no strings attached. So if you've ever given away something on the spur of the moment just because you saw someone in need, if you've ever stood with or stood alongside those who are poor or oppressed, if you've ever traveled to a place that was in need and gave of your own heart, if you've ever held the hand of those who are dying or given fresh water to those who are thirsty, if you've ever loved someone so much that it hurt you so at the core, then you know the amazing spiritual truth of Jesus is life and his words, that the more you give, the more you'll get. That generosity begets generosity. That if you give your life away, then you will get your life back 100-fold. If you count your days and count your blessings, your heart will be awakened with wisdom. If you let go of your distractions, then you can sense the blessings of your day. If you realize that you are a gift and your life is a gift, and that you can give that gift away freely with no strings attached, then you can participate in God's economy and become wealthy in a way that you could never imagine. So let us give thanks and let us give back, that the world might be healed and that God's kingdom will come on earth as it is in heaven, and that God's will be done. So with God's help, we have the power. We have the power and the means to make a difference in this world, because you are a gift. And that gift has been given to you with no strings attached. And let us participate in that gift by giving back with no strings attached. We are blessed, are we not?
Yes, we are.
We are blessed to be a blessing. Amen?
Amen.
And amen.